A roadmap from Patriarchy to Archiarchy. Or how to practically, and financially, make the shift. Anne Chloe Destremau. Follow. 34 minutes read Jan 3. 1. Despite easy conclusions that could be made from our current predicament, the capitalist patriarchal empire is not broken. Modern civilization is not waiting to be fixed or merely rearranged so that human cultures can live in a state of perpetual economic and industrial growth while avoiding to pay for the consequences of their actions. Modern civilization is working exactly as it is supposed to. The hierarchy, a core design element of modern culture institutions, opened the door to exponential industrial growth. When a human being repeats and reproduces the same action over and over again along the factory lines, whether sitting in an office or standing behind a sewing machine, production skyrockets, at the cost of each person's unreasonable, nonlinear, and multidimensional creation force. The only way you become willing to trade your creation force for an additional zero on a bank account, so often, not even your own, is if your agency has been taken away and you see no other choice. Each slave of the empire gives their sovereignty to an authority figure who seems to know better what the slave needs. A slave is not quite a slave unless you are grateful to their masters for keeping you alive. The slave part of you is grateful to modern civilization because you were told that society protects you. Not only does modern society promise that it will take care of you in forms of education, health, and life insurance, pension, free internet and a minimum wage, but more than that, modern culture gives you an identity. It informs you how to fit in, how to belong. Have you ever observed fish in a pond? Each time a fish finds the edge of the school, it immediately and automatically flips around and swims back towards the middle of the school. This is fish thought where, if you reach the edge, turn back immediately. It is not safe. Come back and stay with your friends, family, your boss, your job, and qualifications. You alone keep your own fish thought where alive. You keep yourself within the school, avoiding the edges. You might have dozens of voices shouting in your head, "You are crazy, only you think of these things." If you say it out loud they will lock you away. It is not appropriate to think things like this, you are not allowed to do this, you should be ashamed of yourself, you are so selfish, you cannot always do what you want, life is hard, who do you think you are so arrogant, you are so weak and useless, don't even try, it will fail anyway, etc. Often these voices are coupled with numbing mixed emotions of depression, isolation, despair, hopelessness, shame, guilt, blame, resentment and revenge. These voices are not your own, and actually they are not even in your own head. They live outside of you because they come from somebody else, a teacher, your parents, television, the newspaper, advertisements, etc. As a way to survive the onslaught of judgments made on your person, you integrated them as if they said true things. You made them so familiar that they became the ocean you swim in. As a fish does not know it lives in water, you forgot that you put in place all these mechanisms to keep you in line, fitting in, obedient to the hierarchical, patriarchal and capitalist culture you were born in. You live in your own Truman Show. On each road that leads outside of the known world, you install a big stop sign. And each time you see the sign, you turn around and walk back into prison. If modern culture gives you protection, why leave it behind? You might even convince yourself that it is easier to roll over and play along. But modern culture consumes you. It eats at your soul. It devours your creation force, your attention, your love, your effort, and your time. It engulfs everything you can give until you end up with little to no time, effort, love, commitment, or attention for what and who you care about. At the end of the day, their protection would indeed seem like the best thing, a reassuring force whispering, there, this was nothing. I will take care of you now. Do not worry about a thing. People used to say, give me liberty or give me death. Now you say, make me a slave, just pay me enough. If your child ego state relaxes in the embrace of the monster, your adult ego state screams in agony. It is indeed a mysterious force that stops you from leaving modern culture behind. It is your unconscious fear. Unconscious fear is the third pillar that supports modern culture's status quo. The other two pillars are hierarchical organization design, and promoting being adaptive. You have been terrorized into thinking that if I do not get good grades, I will not get a good job, I will not have enough money to support myself, and I will die homeless, alone and in pain without anyone to care for me or to remember me. This terror campaign only works because you are not initiated into your own inner and outer infinite resources, one of them being your conscious fear. Hierarchy functions because, as an unconsciously terrified participant, you willingly give your energetic center away to self-proclaimed authority figures who promise to take care of you by giving you, less and less, money and a sense of belonging within a psychopathic culture. The more you abandon your own agency, the more alienated you are, the more unconscious fear you feel, the more willing you are to give your center away, then complacently play hierarchical psychopathic games to deny the terror of your situation. The rule of law of modern civilization is exterminating life on planet Earth at the fastest rate possible. If you, still, have any doubt about this, please read, again, the Psychopath's website as well as the What Now? Website for an accurate assessment of current reality. Anyone following the rule of law of modern civilization is criminally insane. A zombie is defined as someone who participates in game worlds that they do not know the value of. When you gain clarity about the ecocidal values of modern culture game worlds, you might unleash enough rage to extract yourself from the only infrastructures that you have ever known: capitalist, patriarchal, and hierarchical, to cavitate and inhabit a culture with infrastructures that are aligned with your own values. As you consider your next step in extracting yourself from modern civilization to create and inhabit archiarchal cultures, there is a time when you can no longer abide by the rule of law of modern civilization. It becomes too disgusting, too insane to continue to act as if this behavior is acceptable to you. At the same moment, you are also not skilled enough to create and inhabit your own archiarchal culture yet. In that gap is nothingness, absolute groundlessness. You may find that your old identity does not fit you anymore, but no new identity has settled in yet. Now you are in a liquid state. You cannot have both the protection of modern culture and the aliveness of archiarchal culture. The exact personal resources that you sacrifice to be a slave of modern culture are those you need to stand on your own 2 feet in your part of archiarchal culture. Internally, what you might experience during your liquid state is high-intensity fear. If you are not at ease with experiencing high intensities of fear, then each time the gap presents itself, you use your fish thoughtware and flip back into your more uncomfortable comfort zone. Modern civilization uses your lack of access to your own resources to maintain its status quo. Your approach can be to jack into your own inner and outer infinite resources. Your inner infinite resources include your center, your conscious feelings, your imagination, your intuition, your attention, your noticing, your self-observation, your commitment, your critical thinking, your bullshit detector, your pearl, your sword of clarity, your voice blaster, your determination, your courage, your gremlin, your nonlinearity, your powers to choose, ask and declare what is so, your authority and your agency. Your outer infinite resources are your bright principles, your archetypal lineage, the Earth Coincidence Control Office, ECCO, Gaia, the unknown, and your teams. On your way to discover the existence of these personal resources, and going through the initiation and emotional healing processes, EHP, that arise during your inner reinvention, you might come to discover that leaving modern culture behind as an obsolete and stupid game world does not result in you becoming homeless, poor, and alone. You discover that there are huge inner and outer forces waiting for you to rely on them as a free and nature adult playing full out in the culture that you design, inhabit, and continuously evolve. You discover that there are so many other edge workers building teams, Gaia villages, and game worlds for you to live and contribute to. You discover alive and functional archiarchal infrastructures, which were heretofore invisible to you. There are 2 main parts on the road to extricate yourself from patriarchy and make your way into archiarchy. One is divesting your financial, and otherwise, commitment to modern culture, and the other is to discover the delights of collaboratively inventing archiarchy. Divest from modern culture, lower your overhead costs. Money buys your way out of connection. If you can pay for a hotel, you do not need to negotiate sleeping in someone's spare bedroom. If you can pay by credit card at the automatic register in the supermarket, you do not need to make contact with the cashier or even worse, the farmer at the farmer's market. If you can pay for your next training or car or house, you do need a team to converge resources and figure out what would be their best uses. It turns out that the biggest obstacles in divesting from modern culture are emotional fears of connection and a lack of skills for negotiating intimacy, both of which you have been trying to bribe your way through by spending large amounts of money. It is possible to drastically reduce your overhead costs you have been paying to modern culture to get in their game. The more monthly expenses you have, the more necessary it is to hold on to a corporate job. There are ways to cut out paying for what you do not need to accomplish your profession as an edge worker. Below is a clear, practical, step-by-step roadmap for disentangling yourself from patriarchal infrastructures. I call these steps experiments. You cannot do these experiments alone. Patriarchy is the lone wolf game. Archiarchy is teamwork. Therefore, the very first experiment on your journey out of patriarchy is to create your Escape the Patriarchy 3-cell. Experiment 1, Matrix Code Escape EPA .01, 1. Create your Escape the Patriarchy 3-cell. The fear that stops you from creating your 3-cell is the exact catalyst needed for your 3-cell to be born. If you still live on the old thought map of fear, this proposal might sound crazy. You might think that fear is really stopping you. You might think that you do not even have fear. Try this: choose 2 people to be in your 3-cell and organize its first meeting. During the meeting, each person reveals their fear of connection by saying, "I am so alone and I am so afraid of connecting because." Each person speaks for 3 to 5 minutes while the other 2 people listen. Go around the 3-cell 7 times. For the next layer, each person reveals their fear of connecting with one other person who is in the 3-cell by saying, "I am afraid of connecting with you in particular because," speak for 2 minutes and go around 4 times. The other person says, "Thank you." At the end of the meeting, share what you now notice about the quality of your connection. For more possibilities, read the Fear of Connection website and do the experiments together. In addition, go through your fear of connection emotional healing processes that arise as you engage with the experiments. Experiment 2, Matrix Code Escape EPA .02, 2 points End your phone contract. You no longer need to have a SIM card with a phone number and data. You can easily handle all your communications on free-to-use messaging apps such as Telegram, WhatsApp, Zallo, Skype, Messenger, etc. Internet is widely available throughout the world these days by Wi-Fi connection. The best news is that without a phone contract, you have no data costs. Instead of receiving ongoing notifications and messages when with your loved ones, you can enjoy being with them. How wonderful! Here are a few hints that I have learned as a traveler. If you use Google Maps, like I do because I am usually in a new place where I do not know my whereabouts, make sure to download the offline maps before you move out of Wi-Fi connection. Some apps might ask you for a phone number to register, such as PayPal or Amazon. You can call them up and tell them that you do not have a working phone number. They will set up a 2-step verification for you with an authenticator. Before abandoning your phone number, make sure that you have installed Telegram/WhatsApp or any other apps that would require to be connected with a phone number in the first place on your desktop. My Telegram account is connected to a prepaid Indonesian number I got for 1 month 4 years ago. It still works perfectly. In case of an emergency, almost everyone around you has a working phone. Tell them that your phone is off, and ask if you can use their phone to make an emergency call. If for one reason or another, you need a phone number, buy a prepaid card. Call your phone company and cancel your contract. Give no explanation. Notice the fears that come up from now being continuously connected and available to the world, air quotes intended: the fear of missing out, the fear of entering presence, fear of the nothingness, fear of not knowing, fear of being with, fear of being kicked out, fear of being unreasonable, fear of going crazy. Go through each emotional healing process needed to end your phone contract with your Escape the Patriarchy 3 cell. Experiment 3, Matrix Code Escape EPA .03, 9 points pay back every debt you owe. Debts towards patriarchal institutions, whether it be banks or government, are one of the heaviest bits of energetic baggage to carry around. Whatever you think you own, in reality, the bank owns it. They can repossess your house, your car, etc. You live under a constant threat of fines, rising interest rates, and shame of being identified as a derelict citizen to be cast away to the outskirts of society if you do not pay back your debts. The pressure is high. Of course, the bank has no intention of empowering you to pay your debts. Its only purpose is to make a profit by keeping you in debt. As long as you pay interest, you support them. In some countries, such as the USA, individuals and corporations can declare bankruptcy, which annuls the totality of their debts. That is one way to complete your debts. There are other possibilities. For example, make the following transformational proposal to one or more archons: I am invoking a team to support my shift from relying on patriarchal institutions to archiarchal infrastructures. I invite you to be an archiarchal infrastructure for me. I am asking for enough money to pay back my debt towards the bank, and in exchange I will do every experiment you offer me so I can generate the resources that I need to thrive as an archon, including paying back the money you give me before a certain due date. What do you say? The difference between being in debt with a patriarchal institution and an archiarchal infrastructure such as a team is that Archiarchy wants you to thrive by delivering abundantly and ecstatically your non-material value, whereas a bank wants your financial dependence to make a profit. However, the difference also is that your victim stories, your emotional reactivity, the contamination of your adult ego state with your child or gremlin ego state have no power in an archiarchal agreement. Your bargaining power is your ability to ongoingly relate radically and be in evolutionary conversation with your team. You do not get to declare bankruptcy, of funds or of your capacity for relating, in Archiarchy. An additional possibility is to join the more formal archiarchal infrastructure of collective savings pools such as Archiarchy River, for which one of the purposes is to flow available funds to paying back debts to alleviate edge workers from modern culture baggage. Experiment 4, Matrix Code Escape EPA .04, 12 points exit the insurance gambling game. Insurance corporations aim at making a profit. They do not care for your well-being. Health insurance, fire insurance, car insurance are all gremlin-feeding gambling games. The company has carefully calculated the odds. If the company induces unconscious fear in enough people to pay their monthly fees, then company payouts for damages or accidents will be far less than their income. The game turns out to be failing because insurance company estimates are no longer valid due to rising water levels, growing number of incurable illnesses, increasing natural disasters from accelerating climate change, toxins in the drinking waters from fracking and corporate pollution, people going berserk with machine guns in public places due to overpopulation pressure and lack of community. In light of these events, when insurance companies do not go bankrupt, it reveals that corporate and political psychopaths protect each other's fortunes without care for the people or the law. You can escape the insurance gambling game by taking radical responsibility for your well-being and the well-being of your community. How can one exist without the other? You have been bullied into believing that caring for the well-being of a community is a burden which the oh-so-well-meaning government is willing to absolve you of, in exchange for your tax money. Instead, learn to make your fear conscious and use its intelligence about what to do and not do. Learn to invoke the group intelligence of your teams to create nonlinear, previously unseen possibilities. Taking radical responsibility for your well-being is not a single-fighter endeavor. This might be your biggest personal challenge. For example, Ardabana is an archiarchal health infrastructure. Ardabana is a self-organized, decentralized, radically responsible, Ubuntu-based private health cooperative network. The core skills to participate in Ardabana are inner navigation, communicating what you want, using your conscious fear to detect purpose, and your conscious anger to make proposals and offers, and to negotiate possibilities. If you learn to be absurdly effective in these skills, any group of people will want you on their team to navigate community meetings. Without those skills, your cooperative networks are bound to be sucked into gremlin low drama and emotional reactivity. Ordinary insurance arranges it so you do not have to grow up and instead depend on doctors and pharmaceutical companies to solve your problems. You can grow up and take back authority for your 5 bodies. Nobody can do it for you. Nobody can stop you from doing it. There is an Archiarchy Artabana whose members are mostly possibilitators. Experiment 5, Matrix Code Escape EPA .05, 3 points Stop paying TV and church taxes. In Germany, most citizens are automatically opted in to pay church taxes. In 2020, the Catholic and Protestant church game worlds took in more than 12 billion, yes billion, euros in church taxes. In some German regions, the church takes between 8% and 9% of your income. You can visit your town hall and sign a single paper to unregister from the church and stop paying church taxes. For more information on this procedure, click here. The procedure costs between 10 and 30 euros depending on your region. In some countries, you pay for each television in your home. Get rid of your televisions. Buy a fireplace, watch the fire dance in the evening. Untick the television box in your next tax declaration and stop paying TV taxes. Experiment 6, Matrix Code Escape EPA .06, 12 points Shift from your megacity gremlin lifestyle, and stop paying rent alone. If you are single or live alone, your box has won. You pay rent, water, electricity, and internet each month by yourself. These are huge overhead costs. The cult of independence pigeonholes community as a hindrance to success. You were trained to compete against others instead of collaborating with them. You were trained to figure it out yourself rather than cheat and creatively collaborate with others. You were trained to mistrust others' closeness as being control. And, you were also trained to be adaptive instead of being centered. You were trained to be an emotional doormat instead of making boundaries. You were trained in worrying about everybody's problems instead of occupying and enjoying your bubble of space. Considering this, it is not surprising that modern culture citizens live alone in boxes stacked on top of one another with only television as company. The necessary shift is from being an invisible and anonymous consuming gremlin in a megacity, to vulnerably and ecstatically contributing your non-material value to a living circle. Instead of living alone, go experience Archiarchy by traveling from one archiarchal initiation center to the next. Do whatever it takes to go through each of the authentic adulthood and archetypal initiations offered there while contributing to the life of the center. Become a nomad for a while. Follow the impulses from ECCO to where your possibilitator specialty skills are wanted and needed. Provide your value wherever you go so that when you leave, the circle is healthier, more generous, more empowered, more on fire than it was when you arrived. Do not expect them to take care of you. Travel to third world countries hitchhiking, camping, couch surfing, and homestaying. Eat cheap and delicious street food. Discover how other cultures have never bought into the living alone belief system. For example, in Bali, each family lives in a compound. Each corner of the compound is for a particular generation of the family. When the oldest generation dies, everybody moves to a different house. Interview them about their culture. Practice culture-to-culture conversations. Move into a temporary living together experiment in close quarters, which is a bridge house. Practice being centered, grounded, bubbled, with your sword of clarity out, your gremlin at your side, creating being-to-being connections and nonlinear possibilities for escaping patriarchy. Make the main purpose of your adventure to reclaim your agency in as many dimensions as you can. Learn to be yourself while in the company of others. Discover that you can be more yourself when in a circle than in your apartment. Experiment 7, Matrix Code Escape EPA .07, 12 points Shift into collective mobility. Owning a car involves paying for car insurance, gas, and fixing the car when it breaks down. Instead, shift into collective mobility. Not owning a car means you get to gather your community, your neighbors, your friends, or family and figure out winning happening mobility solutions. Use your team as a solution engine. Learn to hold and navigate collaborative space. Learn to practice together, accessing the intelligence of your feelings and of the bright principles of possibility and community. It is an opportunity to place emotional healing processes, EHP, at the center of your collective context. Abandoning ownership of your car might come right along with the necessities of your game plan. If your reactivity convinces you that you should be able to do what you want without having to deal with anybody, even having to deal with the shadow parts of yourself, then consider that your gremlin ego state is probably enmeshed in your adult ego state. Your healing journey starts with gremlin transformation followed by adult ego state decontaminations. Just in the past few minutes, I found out the following possibilities to rely on archiarchal infrastructures to emerge a culture of collective mobility. Share one motorized vehicle among your community. Learn to negotiate intimacy and come up with crazy nonlinear collaborative possibilities so everyone gets what, and where, they want. Discover the richness that accompanies collective mobility. Propose to build wooden hitchhiking benches in your village placed at the exits. The people in the village know that anyone who sits on these benches is asking for a ride. Involve the teenagers in building the wooden benches so they can start their technopaneuriaphobia healing. Forbid cars to drive through your center of town. Organize a parking lot at the edge of your town and turn the main road into a pedestrian orchard/permaculture garden/kids playground, but not a dog toilet. Center your town on people instead of cars. Replace profit with community life. For long rides between cities, use BlaBlaCar, a carpooling game world. Carry postcards around with links to your website. People who use BlaBlaCar are already on their way to the edge of modern culture. Keep opening evolutionary step doorways for anyone who comes into the car. Be careful to not put the driver in a liquid state. They might not be able to drive if you do so. Travel by camel or donkey or skateboard or windsurfing. Experiment 8, Matrix Code Escape EPA.08, 2 points Stop shoe shopping. Shopping happens when your attention is sucked into a possible fantasy world of owning something new, something different, something else. This could be a new partner, a new dress, a new look. The point is that your attention has been hijacked for the purpose of getting access to your credit card. You are the willing, naive, victim. The question is, why are you willing? The way to find the answer is to take back your attention and stop shopping, then see what happens. You won't make it longer than 3 minutes at first. How long can you endure owning a greater amount of your free attention and not flowing energy into upper world or underworld fantasies? Clearly, doorways for emotional healing processes will immediately arise. Nobody can do this for you. Nobody can stop you from doing it. On this roadmap, you are not required to know how to do any of the experiments before you start with any of the experiments. Why would we offer you an experiment that you already can do? The first reason people give for not doing something is, I don't know how. We are trained at school to think that knowing how is the most important thing. But the universe conserves know-how. You only get the know-how if you are already committed to creating real results no matter what, and thereby have created authentic necessity. Money is one of the easiest ways to avoid your fear of not knowing how. Take the money out of your relating, and face your incompetence in being with other human beings in an adult, responsible, communicative, winning happening context. Your job is to go on an experiential journey of how to be with other human beings while figuring out your values and your culture. Note, the purpose of these experiments is not to aggravate the scarcity that you already live in. The purpose is to extract yourself from the belief that you need what modern culture provides to survive. You do not. When you take back your resources from the game worlds of modern culture, you reclaim your energy, time, attention, and resources to direct them according to what your being wants. Scarcity is not healed through abundance. Scarcity is healed through collaborative invention. Collaborative invention is what you do with your energy when you are not worrying about having enough money to pay your bills. Collaborative invention is archiarchy in action. Moving into archiarchy, from being a consumer to being a creator. Escaping patriarchy is like walking on a bridge covered in fog. You cannot see any further than your feet and your next step. The fog is generated by your own mimetic survival construct, protecting you from seeing what is possible. The longer you live on the bridge and the further you walk down the bridge, the lighter the fog becomes. Adulthood initiations make your survival strategies optional so that you move closer and closer with reality where you have power. Power to create. Archiarchal infrastructures are set up all along the bridge to support your journey. However, archiarchal infrastructures do not function within the same constraints as patriarchal infrastructures. Your unconscious and highly sensitive survival instincts trained in school, in your childhood home, or on the job, are ineffective in creating any kind of durable experience of archiarchy. This can be very frustrating. Your uninitiated child emotion parts might want to throw a tantrum and blame possibility management or archiarchy for being too harsh, cold, or inhuman. You might even try to bend the radical responsible context of these archiarchal infrastructures to be softer or more understanding of your own limitations. If you succeed in seducing a space holder of an archiarchal infrastructure to deny the clarity that its context emerges from, the only thing that you have instigated for yourself is more fog on the bridge. Archiarchy does not become more accessible to you through exerting hysterical demands or clever manipulations. The context of archiarchy protects itself. If you stick around long enough, what collapses are your survival strategies. Your strategy of professional victimhood collapses when your complaining and blaming are ineffective in having people rescue you instead of you asking for what you want. Your strategic white widow seductions fail to open new positions of power in the hierarchy because the coin of the realm is your non-material value, not your status position. Your strategy of trying to know how it goes collapses under the necessity of generating never-before-seen nonlinear discovery spaces for evolution. Your strategy of staying numb or being cool collapses as it cuts you off from your own resources. Your strategy of being a leader collapses because it suppresses group intelligence and feeds competitive gremlin feeding. Your strategy of being a nice boy or a good girl looks silly when you cannot use your bullshit detector, you cannot make boundaries, you cannot say what you want, or make transformational proposals. Your strategy of being known thinking that you know yourself or other people collapses in the face of the evolutionary path of human consciousness. Your strategy of following the ecocidal rule of law of modern culture collapses because it reveals that you have not chosen which culture you live in. Archons train themselves in being unhookable to their own survival strategies, and that is why they stick out like a giant orange Hubbard squash in a zucchini bed. If you want to teach people a new way of being, don't bother trying to teach them. Instead, give them a tool, the use of which will lead to new ways of being. Buckminster Fuller, Replacing Thinking with Being. Your participation in patriarchal infrastructures is a consumerist one. Corporations provide stuff, you buy stuff, clothes, phones, movies, TV shows, 24/7 worldwide news, music, anti-aging cream, everything you can buy for $1 Chinese plastic shops, electric cars, space race, your next tea set. You have learned to stand back and watch other people create material value merchandise. You might have even bought into, pun intended, the clever empowerment motto of "make a difference with your dollar." Within patriarchal boundaries, your only permissible identity is that of a consumer, but now you can be a green consumer. This writing is to inform you that a culture centered on the creation of non-material value is thriving. This is Archiarchy. The way to participate in archiarchal infrastructures is to create your special non-material value. You cannot make use of the infrastructures of Archiarchy without putting yourself on the line. You cannot consume authenticity. Authenticity is detected viscerally. You experience authenticity when you become authentic about your own inauthenticity, when you are radically honest about what you can and cannot yet create. You cannot consume clarity. Clarity changes the shape of your being and what you are able to perceive in yourself and others. Clarity is not a chocolate-filled cream puff religieuse, something you can delightfully shove into your mouth and then forget about it. Clarity gives you indigestion. You cannot consume radical relating. Radical relating happens when you are willing to let your wall down to be present enough with another person who at the same time gives up their show so as to be present with you. The bad news is that after decades of practicing your consumerism, you are now confronted with your own incompetence to be a co-creative collaborator. You have been hammered into trying to know, have, own and do. If only you can prove that you are doing everything that you can, you might be promoted. Or you look around for the threshold of having done enough so you can collect your reward and retire. When you project doing or knowing as a measure of your value in Archiarchy, you enter the most insane race of frantically collecting a currency that has no value. You are picking up armfuls of hot dry sand in the desert. You are pedaling on a bike with its wheels off the ground. You push but nothing moves. You are left with more of the same familiar results: exhaustion, confusion, and alienation. Non-material value is created from nothing. The more you try to be something, the less access you have to the nothingness needed to create immediate value. When you try to be someone who fits in, someone who people like, your access to raw creation forces vanishes, and you find yourself circling back to your old self-manipulation tricks of pressuring yourself to do something, so you can be someone. But you cut yourself off from creation. It is easy to notice when you are trying to be someone. You will hear voices in your head telling you that you should, you must, you have to, you promised, you committed. Or you shame yourself for not doing what you already really want to do. You have built so many checks and balances inside of you that they crush your innate access to creation forces. It is a fool's vision that you can shift from being a consumer to being a creator without a team. Your circle. In the original fogginess of the bridge to Archiarchy, your first enemy is your unconscious fear. Your greatest fear might be to successfully complete your quest of peeling modern culture off of your back like a butterfly would peel off her chrysalis. You might be terrified that without the ongoing familiar pressure and the voices you might explode from the inside, as if you had been sent into outer space without a suit. Your biggest fear might be to successfully take your authority back, remove your energetic blocks and unleash yourself as a free and natural adult. If you escape from the 8 prisons, where will you go then? What will you complain about when there is no one left to blame? How will you justify playing small, being invisible, and pretending to be powerless? Who are you if not a lost quivering puddle of emotional anxiety? This is when your teams come in handy. Your teams bring the wheels of your bike down on the road. Which means, your teams help you enter presence. Your teams are your genius resources circle. Your circle is those people behind you, next to you, and in front of you on the bridge. You build your circle by extending your arms, including your unlimited number of energetic arms, to hold the hands of the people around you. These people might be offering 3 initiations, completing incomplete emotions in weekly meetings, or having a weekly emotional healing process dojo with the online Telegram Emotional Healing Collaboration Group, or coming together in a free-to-join possibility team or study group on the PM Events Group. The first step in making use of your rusted creation power might be as simple as being honest about what you want. I want an emotional healing process. Who could hold space for me? Or I want to join your possibility team, study group, weekly group. How can I join? The byproduct of asking for what you want is that you create honesty, clarity, and connection. Plus, you might actually get it, rather than expecting other people to read your mind. It will not take long for you to build competence in asking for support from your fellow bridgewalkers. Asking for what you want, however, is a pretty minimal offer on the scale of creation. Your survival strategy could easily be satisfied with participating in archiarchal infrastructures by asking from others to create for you more than you create for others. But, what you create determines how much you experience archiarchy. Welcome to adulthood. Nobody can spoon-feed you archiarchy. You enter archiarchy when you feed others with your hitherto untapped non-material value. Keep extending your arms, but this time, hold the hands of those who can make use of your non-material value. Some of them you see, some of them you do not. But you keep saying, I am here. I am discovering this. Let's practice together. You might start hearing that other people are saying the same thing, sharing their own research with you and their own circle. When you participate in their circle, it becomes your circle too. The people in your circle are the people you want around you as you cross the invisible bridge over the void of the unknown towards somewhere out there. Somewhere else. They are the people you can provide a listening space for, and those who provide a listening space for you. They are the people you generate possibility for and those who give you possibility. They are the people you can call bullshit on, and those who call bullshit on you. They are the people for whom you hold space for emotional healing processes, and the people who hold space for your emotional healing processes. If you relate to your circle as your clientele, you are still stuck in the concept of ordinary business practices that relate to human beings as consumers instead of as intelligent, sensitive, creative beings, capable of taking responsibility and making extraordinary moves. If you think about your circle as your followers, you have been sucked into the New Age concept of the handsome holy tribal man, or the goddess angel workshop leader woman. Your followers are the weak-willed, wounded and confused people who need you as a role model for how their life could look if only they could be like you. These two misconceptions, being the chosen one who makes money off your Patreon supporters and paid blog subscribers, are severe obstacles to building your archiarchal circle. The invitation is to go through the necessary emotional healing processes and adulthood initiations for you to extract yourself from these prison concepts. You might then discover that the bridge is made of other people, other edge workers, rift walkers, game world builders, possibilitators, your friends, foe, colleagues, and strangers on the path of evolution. Your circle is your bridge. Your bridge is your circle. Here are 2 experiments for building your archiarchal circle and delivering your non-material value. Experiment 9, Escape HEPA Point 09, 12 points deliver Rage Club and emotional healing processes. Learn to deliver emotional healing processes by first going through your own emotional healing processes, plus by watching all 118 possibility coaching demonstrations, plus by studying the process and EHP Dojo websites, plus by participating in a possibility coaching training. Learn to deliver Rage Club by first participating in a Rage Club, plus reading the Conscious Rage and Rage Club websites, plus watching the recordings of previous Rage Club Spaceholder training, plus participating in a Rage Club Spaceholder training, and then entering the Rage Club Spaceholders team. Deliver Rage Club and emotional healing processes for your circle until your low-level and high-level fears of being visible turn into the excitement of creating. It does not happen immediately. It happens over time. As the fear turns into excitement, more space becomes available in you for accessing the nothingness needed for your own unique creation. Provide both of these transformational spaces until you do not have enough time to go to your corporate job, and you receive enough money to keep delivering your non-material value. Quit your corporate job. Live full out being an edge worker. Experiment 10, Escape HEPA Point 10, 2 points change your test. One of the most common justifications for not abundantly creating non-material value for your circle is that you do not know enough. You go around being afraid of being discovered as a fraud. Your fear most likely remains from your time in school, being evaluated according to how much you know. Your non-material value, in whatever shape it shows up, is ultimately about holding and navigating non-material spaces of healing and transformation. The test that your clients and participants consciously or unconsciously put you through to decide whether they are ready to pay you for your services is not how much you know. The test is, how well can you deeply see them, and hold and navigate the unknown space of relating with them, in which you discover their next healing step together. If you think it is about how much you know, how many training certificates you have on your office wall, then you are using the wrong test to qualify yourself as being ready to be visible or not. Change your test. This experiment is to ask your teams, in what ways can I already hold and navigate spaces of the unknown? Please give me detailed and specific examples. And, what is next for me to learn in regards to my space holding and space navigating skills? Learning new space holding skills usually involves going through emotional healing processes. Go through every emotional healing process that comes up for you while building your own personal website and send out your monthly newsletter to your circle, offering your services publicly. The edge, your ally in creation. As you keep walking on the bridge, the fog may seem to dissipate a little. You might discover with horror that some sections of the bridge that you did not originally see are actually not even built. You think, what the heck have people been doing for all these years? I thought they were building the bridge that I could walk on. If one of your go-to survival reactions is feeling betrayed and going for revenge, you might even blame other possibilitators for their lack of results. Where is all that archiarchy you thought you could find and rest in? Just like if you visit a famous tourist village where the authentic locals have vanished and all you can find are rabid salespeople trying to get into your wallet or down your pants. You look around, imagining you might be able to experience the real truth of San Miguel de Allende, Mexico, or Hoi An, Vietnam, only to find yourself observing tourists observing you. These cities, once centers of multidimensional creation, have become pale remnants of their former selves. The cult of consumerism takes the soul out of these communities and replaces it with a survival existence centered on imaginary money and profit. So then, where can you experience archiarchy? Archiarchy is not a where. It is a what. Archiarchy is regenerative evolutionary creation in service of something bigger than yourself. Creation is only minimally about material objects. Human beings do not need more material stuff. Archiarchal economics is centered on creating and exchanging non-material value. The moment you stop creating vulnerability, possibility, clarity, evolution, discovery, adventure, community, healing, transformation, initiation, high-level fun, or any other bridge-wailing principles, archiarchy slips from your fingers like butter on a hot day. You might discover that archiarchy is not a final destination on the other side of a bridge, but an edge to engage with. You might discover that this edge, as edgy as it feels to balance there, is your ally in playing full out as a free and natural adult woman or man. The edge is your ally because it is an interface of different resources, even contradictory resources. For example, at the edge you easily notice when someone or yourself is defending themselves or staying in their head as a way to survive. The edge provides a contrasting field where different purposes live so close to each other they become visible. The edge is the meeting point between the defensive survival context of the known territory and the living, unpredictable, uncontrollable context of the nothingness. On the edge you can clearly distinguish, this is defensive, this is expansive, this is mind-centered, this is five-body informed. The edge is a source of clarity. New clarity gives you power to cause new things to occur. There is no formula for creating. No one can teach you techniques for creating. However, you can be empowered to create by making certain distinctions, and having a first-hand experience of the principles of creation. The purest and most powerful kind of creation is creating possibility, creating the possibility for something or some situation to exist which did not exist before. There are two domains in which to create possibility: creating possibility for yourself, this is done through shifting identity, shifting the internal conversation, and creating possibility for others, this is done by shifting the external conversation. The edge is your ally in creation in that it is a leverage point. There is a common assumption that, right at the edge of the known, there is immediately another territory, like crossing an invisible border between neighboring countries. But this is not so. Between energetic territories is a gap. Duality is a misconception. How can there be two of something if you cannot distinguish them by introducing a third element between them, the gap? What exists in reality is not duality but triality, two things plus a gap between them. You need nothingness to create. And you find nothingness in one of the 9 gaps between edges, in the gap in spaces, the gap in identities, the gap in game worlds, the gap in knowing, the gap in time, the gap in noise, the gap in resonance fields, the gap in thoughtware, and the gap in communication. For example, within the boundaries of a known territory, whether you are slogging through a muddy soup of polite agreements or battling an army of hungry gremlin attacks, the conversation may become ordinary. The edge becomes a useful tool in shifting from ordinary to extraordinary by creating possibilities that were unavailable before. At the edge, you can push off of the ground, for example, upwards to gain new perspectives by looking at the territory from above, gaining the chance to create a meta-conversation, a conversation about the conversation. This creates the possibility of possibility. You can also make use of the solid base by standing at the very edge of the space, grab the rug on which people are standing and pull the rug out from under their feet. The space and the people in it go into free fall with nothing left to hold on to. If people can withstand the unbearable lightness of being with each other, radical relating and discovery can begin. You can launch from the solidity of known territory by saying, "This is no longer working. We are in need of something that is not this." Each time you say, "I do not want this," you get closer to what you do want, instead of fighting or trying to change what you do not want. You can have a do-over, by taking down the current composition of the space and redesigning the whole thing from scratch. You can change your mind, by admitting that you have gone to the edge of your own identity and become someone new. At the edge, you have a chance to stay in integrity with your own evolution instead of fulfilling other people's expectations of who you should be. Inside your own marshmallow zone of familiar comforts and habits, there is no opportunity for change, only defensiveness of you who think you are. Each of these skills create the possibility of possibility. You can make it your job to become absurdly effective in any one of those skills. And then train others. No matter how big or small the gap is, whether it is paper thin or a kilometer wide, the edge of nothingness remains one of the greatest sources of valuable fear. If you have not been initiated into the massive intelligence and energy of conscious fear, you may still be trying to move away from any edge and seek certainty. Then you wonder why your geniusness is not challenged and your life is dull. It is because you moved away from the intensity of continuously coaxing out of nothing that which does not yet exist. Experiment 11, Escape EPA Point 11, 5 points follow the fear. Consider this, the fear dwelling at the edge is the fear of being responsible to fulfill necessity even when you do not know how. Something is asking to evolve out of its current shape. As they say, necessity is the mother of invention. Necessity provides the forces that are essential to creating something new, different, or better to serve whatever edge you find yourself on. Fear is your compass towards the edge. If you are not feeling afraid, you are not at the edge. This experiment is to be repeated as often as possible. Close your eyes. Lower your fear numbness bar and scan the people who are energetically close to you. Point with your physical hand where your fear is highest. Scan for who you are energetically pointing at. Ask your fear, what is my edge with this person? It could be a promise that you made and did not keep. It could be a misunderstanding that is still latent. It could be that you need to appreciate them for their presence in your team. It could be that there is something you need to learn from them, even if you do not know what it is. Again, ask your fear, what do I need to create about this? Your fear will help you design your next creation experiment with precision, intelligence, and nonlinearity. Then immediately go do that exact experiment. Call the person up and handle it. Notice that your fear of the edge might even be accompanied with the ecstasy of creating something that never existed before. What if, despite your incompetence, creation agency is what you have been looking for while participating in yoga classes, spiritual retreats, and traveling around the world? What if your quest is to do whatever it takes to morph into the creator that you are instead of remaining a hoodwinked consumer? Will you let your fear of incompetence be in the way of your quest? Can you keep breathing and stay in collaborative creative communication even when each and every one of your known survival strategies are being ignored, set aside or confronted? Can you keep breathing when you teeter at the edge of your own path, preparing yourself to leap into the unknown? I think you can, if you keep trying, if your team is behind you on this. Where I am going with this is, ultimately, an invitation for each edge worker to make their place in Archiarchy. Making your place in Archiarchy takes additional skills and distinctions than those mentioned in this article. Documenting them is the edge of my own research. It started with a work talk I delivered on December 11, 2022. I recorded it. You can watch the work talk here. Without a promise, but with excitement about what is next, there might be more articles to come. Let's see what else My Edge has in reserve for you. Written by Anne-Chloé Destremau. Next, Culture Maker, evolutionary game world builder and possibility management trainer.